Hello and welcome everybody. We're here for the last Hangout. My name's Ben Munro and I'm final year marketing co-op scholar. And today I'm just going to run you through a few more tips and tricks and a bit of info about the application. It's getting towards the pointy end of the application window. So September 30th is when applications close. So hopefully most of you have already started that process. And today I want to just give you a few little pointers for anyone who's still stuck on any part of that application. So hopefully you'll find this helpful. If you do have any questions, there is a live chat box there on YouTube. So at any point, if you have a question, just pop that in the box there. And at the end, I will go back and answer any of those questions. So feel free to do that at any time. Now, I just want to do a really short recap of the co-op program. So essentially, the co-op program is a professional development scholarship that's going to help prepare you for your career by offering you 9 to 18 months of industry experience at over 150 leading companies. And on top of that, you're going to get a heap of professional development, leadership, networking opportunities. And it is, of course, a scholarship. So there is that $19,600 a year. But I don't want to cover the co-op program too much, and I want to stick more to the application today to really help guide you along with all of that. And especially I want to talk a little bit more about the video snapshot. So first of all, if you haven't registered already, please do that as soon as possible. Do that today or tonight. We have, just about 13 days until the application closes. So really get onto that as soon as possible. And you will need to select if you're a high school leader or a gap year student on this registration page. And you will also need to put in your UAC number. So everyone should have a UAC number by now. And if you already registered before you had your UAC number, make sure you go back and put that in because you need to have the correct UAC number in there for your application to be matched up properly with your UAC preferences. So if you haven't done so, please do that as soon as possible as well. So next up, you'll get into the actual application portal itself. Hopefully most of you have already accessed this, had a little bit of a look around. But as you can see, there's all of the parts of the application there, all of the steps that you need to complete with those little green marks and the ticks to indicate if you've already completed a section. So hopefully you've already started on a few of those. And that's kind of an outline of everything you need to do. So hopefully you're getting towards the point where most of that is done. There's also the school's assessment page that you'll need to complete in the supporting documentation tab. Or if you're a gap year student, you'll need to put in a gap year explanation in here. I will stress that for the school's assessment page, your careers advisor will need to fill out something on their end. So they'll need to put in a little bit of information about you, about your marks, and this can take some time because there is that little bit of back and forth. So please, if you haven't already nominated your school and nominated your careers advisor, do that as soon as possible. That's probably the most urgent thing to do. So nominate your school's careers advisor as soon as possible. And definitely reach out to them as well, just to ensure that they're on the case, they're aware of your application, and they're working on completing everything on their end. So please, if you haven't done that, make sure you do it as soon as possible. And if you've already started that, maybe just reach out to your year advisor or your careers advisor just to ensure that they have actually completed that section. Next up are the application questions. So Firstly, you have those 3 preferences that you can put in, and I stress that you don't need to fill in all of those 3 preferences. You can just use 1 preference or just 2 preferences. And please make sure that these preferences are things that you're genuinely interested in and really do have a passion for. Don't just fill them in because they're there. And you will need to kind of tailor your application questions towards those preferences. So by all means, you can have multiple if you feel they're kind of related, but otherwise just keep it to those ones that you're really interested in. A few little tips for those application questions. Hopefully you've already started this, but we recommend putting it into a Word doc and then copying all your answers over when you're done. Obviously, proofread your answers and do this twice just to make extra sure that you're picking up on any little spelling or grammar errors, because that can, really not look great on your application. And of course, there is a character limit as well. So just note that that's not a word limit, it's a character limit. So make sure you stick within that for all of your questions. A few key tips. Obviously, like I said, I've stressed this a few times, but if you haven't registered already, do it as soon as possible. And then again, I just want to reiterate, the school's assessment page can take a little bit of time. Try and get that started or finished as soon as possible, and just touch base with your careers advisor, see where they're at in that whole process. And obviously review and do kind of a final proofread. You can have someone else kind of check over it just to make sure it all makes sense and that there's no errors. But we do want this to be your authentic voice. So don't have someone else kind of write the application for you or edit any bits too much for you. They really would just be proofreading it for any bits that don't make sense or any errors. And finally, it is your opportunity to boast. In this application, we want to hear all about you and all about the amazing things that you've done. And if you don't include it in the application, we're not going to know it happened. So all those amazing things you've done, just make sure you include them and don't feel scared about boasting, even though it might feel a little bit uncomfortable or unnatural to you. And lastly, there is an application tutorial on YouTube. So please access that and take a look through if you're having difficulty with any bits of the application. September 30th is obviously the application close. So we're getting very close to that. So get the ball rolling with all of this stuff and try to start completing that as soon as you can. Now I want to talk a little bit about the video snapshot. So if you registered already, you should have all received an invite already with the link to VPOL, which is the video snapshot platform. Those were sent out at midday today, so if you registered before then, you should have the link by now. If you can't find it, make sure you check your spam or your deleted folder. It should be from support@vpol.com if you want to kind of search it in your inbox. Otherwise, if you still can't find the link, please contact the Co-op program. So there's an email address there, coop.rog@unsw.edu.au, and they will sort everything out for you. And if you still haven't registered, the links will be sent out on Friday this week, and then next week on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, as well as over the weekend, which is the 2 days before the application close. So don't stress, if you haven't already registered, you will receive your your link to the video snapshot platform on one of those days. So a little bit of general info about the video snapshot. It's a 2-minute video, and the stimulus is basically to introduce yourself, tell us something interesting, unusual, unique, or different about yourself, and then expand on something in your written application. And really, the point of this is so that you can show a little bit of your personality, which can help, kind of show us more about you from just those written answers. And this is something that's very common in job interviews these days. It's becoming increasingly more common in those kind of applications that you'll have to do video interviews or a short video where you answer some questions. So this is kind of emulating that. A few tips to get ready for the video snapshot. Firstly, try and find a quiet, private and well-lit space and ensure that the background is free from clutter and more or less neutral. And you also want to position your camera so that it's eye level and that you're in the center of the screen. If you're having trouble finding, the equipment or a space to do this, try ask a teacher at your school if there's a room you can use at the school, or otherwise libraries usually have rooms that you can book out for this kind of stuff. In terms of what to wear for the video snapshot, professional attire isn't required. Just wear something that makes you feel comfortable. So really we tell you to use your best judgment here. It's not about what you're going to be wearing. It's about, you showing your personality and you trying to bring that across. And we're definitely not going to be focusing on what you're wearing in the video, but if you do feel more comfortable dressing up a little bit more, that's fine. The key to this is just don't overthink it too much and do use your best judgment here. Now, a couple of technical tips for the video snapshot. Obviously, check that your device's audio is working, test that your webcam is working, and this you can actually do on the Veepal platform before you take the video snapshot. And you want a stable internet connection as well. So again, if you're struggling with the equipment there or your internet isn't great at home, try at your school or maybe at a local library just to make sure that your internet's working well. So these are a couple of screenshots from the actual Veepal platform when you follow that link. And you can see on the left there is the desktop version and then the right is mobile. So what you'll have to do when you follow that link is first select the 2020 Co-op Program Scholarship, and it'll give you a little summary of what will happen on the next couple pages. So you're going to have a practice question which you can use to test all of your equipment and also just kind of get comfortable in front of the camera, and you can repeat that as many times as you want, that practice question. And then after that, you'll move on to the actual question itself. And you can see there that it allows for 2 resets. So how this works is that you have 3 attempts, but you'll need to use your last attempt. So if you do a first attempt and then go reset and record a second attempt, you won't then be able to go back to the first attempt. You'll need to use the most recent one. A little recommendation here is if you've done the first attempt and you're pretty happy with it, just go with it. Don't get worried about the way your hair's looking or little things like that. If you've recorded an attempt and you're pretty happy with it, just go with it. I want to stress as well that the video snapshot is an extra part of the application and the core of it is still the written answers. So the main thing that we're going to be looking at is still you'll be able to check all of the browser requirements and the technology stuff. So you should get green ticks next to everything, as you can see on the left screenshot there. If something's not working as it should, you'll get a cross and it'll show up red like you can see on the right there. So if you're trying to do this on mobile, we recommend doing it from the actual mobile app. Don't try and do it in the browser because you can see that may not work very well. So just make sure all of those are working fine before you click to go through and start recording. This is what the page will look like when you get to the practice question, and like I said, this is a time to test all of your equipment, get comfortable in front of the camera, do all of that. And one thing you should definitely do is test the volume here. So you can see under the box where you're being recorded, there's a little volume indicator and it'll tell you to speak up if it's a little too soft. And then on this next screenshot, you can see it's saying just right next to the volume indicator. So you know if you're speaking loud enough. And then up the top, you'll see the kind of countdown for how much time you have left. And this is still in the practice question, and then before you click through to record your actual attempt, you'll need to click to confirm that you've heard yourself clearly and that you can see yourself clearly. So that will be checked before you move on to the actual recording of the video snapshot. A few more tips about preparing before you actually log on and get into the platform. Make sure you have a good think about what you want to say. And the key here is to think about something that sets you apart, something that makes you stand out from all the other applicants. And you do want to expand on something that's in your written application. So don't bring up something completely new. You're only going to have 2 minutes. So there's not really time to, bring heaps of new content into this. You want to go through your application, pick something poignant, something that really speaks to you, and just tell us a little bit more about that. And I guess the best tip is just to practice talking in front of the camera and getting really comfortable with that. It can feel a little bit weird at first, but the more you do some practice runs through, the more comfortable you'll get with that. Is a whole kind of tips and current Scholar Snapshots section on the Co-op website. So if you go onto the Co-op website, you can get tips about the application, the video snapshot, and the school's assessment page. And if you go to the video snapshot page, there will be a link to the Co-op program YouTube page. And here you can view some current scholars doing a few video snapshots. So if you want a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of a guide on how to do your video snapshot if you're feeling lost, go onto the YouTube channel and check out some of those current Scholar snapshots. Now, of course, you don't want to follow these exactly. The idea is that you kind of take this, in your own direction. We want to see a little bit of your personality, and we've given you a bit of freedom here to come up with something yourself. So you're not copying these exactly, but they're great to give you a little guide and kind of a feel for something that you might do in your snapshot. I'm going to cover just a couple of frequently asked questions here. And I'll do these pretty quickly because we have covered these in the last 2 Hangouts as well. Firstly, dual degrees you cannot do with Co-op. Secondly, you cannot defer the Co-op scholarship. So if you do get offered and you decline that offer and want to do Co-op, the year after, take a gap year and then go into Co-op, you'll have to apply again. You can't defer that offer. So gap years are allowed, but like I said, you'll then need to apply in the year before you start. Can you do Co-op with other scholarships? Yes, Co-op does work with the AAA or the Academic Achievement Award or Scientia. So you can't do all 3 of those together, but you can do Co-op with one or the other. And for other scholarships, generally Co-op works with most of them, but you do need to check the individual scholarship criteria to make sure that you can fulfill both of those. So just check every single one, but there is a possibility that yes, you can do other scholarships with Co-op. And finally, adjustment factors. So as you know, there's the 96 cutoff, that's the academic requirement for Co-op, and taken into account is only the educational access scheme points. So any other bonus points are not going to be included in that. So keep that in mind. But one thing I'll add about the 96 is that you never know what you're going to get. You might surprise yourself on the day. So if you are aiming over 90, we generally say just apply, and you're safer off having applied than you actually end up getting over that 96 on the day and you didn't apply because you didn't think you were going to get it. Now, a few frequently asked questions about the snapshot. So can I re-record my snapshot video? Like I said, you can. You have 3 attempts in total, but that will overwrite the last attempt. So you can re-record, but that means you have to use the last attempt. You can't go back. Can I watch my snapshot video back? Yes, you can watch it back, but like I said, if you choose to re-record, that's going to overwrite the video that you've just watched. If you need to come back to the video and watch it again, how do you log in? So you just use the same login details that you got in the initial email from support@vpool.com. So that should be somewhere in your emails. But if you do think you're going to need to come back and watch the video, maybe a good idea to just save those login details somewhere. And lastly, I don't have anything good to talk about. What do I do? So really the tip here is just not to overthink it. It's only 2 minutes, which is really not a very long time. And we just want to get a little bit of a feel for what you're all about and a bit about your personality. So if you're really stuck on this, the best tip is to reread your application, look for a point in it that you think really speaks to you and why you're different, and then just tell us a little bit more. Express that in your own words, however you want to do it. But just try and make, yourself come out, and that should be kind of the guiding principle behind what to include in the video snapshot. A couple more questions. So I don't have my half-yearly rankings, predicted results, or other rankings. That is okay. If you don't have those, just fill out the page with as much as you can. And if there's any sections that you can't fill in, just enter a dash in there. And there is a results explanation field down the bottom, and just put in a note. So it might be, you've done IB or interstate, whatever it is, just write that in the results explanation field. Do I need to have the co-op stream program I'm applying for as number 1 in my UAC preferences? No, you don't have to. You should have whatever degree you want to do the most as number 1 in your UAC preferences. But what you need to ensure is that if you do get offered a co-op scholarship, you also need to gain entrance into that degree. So if co-op offers you a scholarship, but you have gained entrance into your first preference, which is not a co-op degree, then you will be offered that degree by UAC. And in order to actually accept co-op, you need to be offered the degree as well as get offered into the program from UNSW. So you don't have to put it as your first preference if it's not your first preference, but if that is the degree that you want to do the most, then put that as your first preference. Can I still submit my application if my supporting documentation, so that includes the school's assessment page or the gap year explanation, has not been completed? Yes, you can do that as long as you've actually nominated the school. But then we still won't consider the application complete until your careers advisor has completed everything on their end. So you can actually submit your application before your careers advisor has finished everything on their end, but that still doesn't mean it's fully complete. So if you do this, just make sure you go back and check, follow up your careers advisor to ensure that they have finished everything on their end, because you need that for everything to be complete. What kind of referees do I need to list in the application? So for this, basically you can just choose anyone who can support the information in your application and provide some feedback about you. So a few common suggestions is someone from your school, from the community, or maybe an employer. Just anyone who knows you, can give a little bit of feedback about who you are or verify, some of the information in your application. So don't overthink this too much. Do I need a UAC number to submit my application? So by this stage, we're almost at the application close date. Everyone should have a UAC number. So you do need to put that in. And if you started your application with a different number, so your Board of Studies number, it might have been IB or interstate, please go back and update that with your real UAC number. So if you need to do that, maybe do that tonight before you forget. And last question, I'm experiencing technical difficulties when trying to fill out my application. We have had a few reports of a couple of people having issues accessing the application site on Mac. So if that's happening to you, try using a Windows desktop computer. But the first tip would be on your Mac, if you're having difficulties, just try different browsers. Internet Explorer speaks best to the application site, so try that first. If it's still not working, try on a Windows computer. And if you're still having difficulty, please contact the Co-op program. So there's the phone number and the email there, and they're also on the website if you need to get in touch. So let's just take a little look at the timeline. We're sort of in the middle of September, which means the applications are going to close very soon on the 30th. And then the process after this is that interview notifications will come out on the 11th of November. And if you were successful in receiving an interview, the briefing day will be on the 26th. So that's a day where you'll actually come in to UNSW, you'll get a bunch of information about what the interview actually entails, a little bit more information about your program, about sponsors, basically preparing you for the next day, which is on the 27th, and those are the actual interviews themselves. Then after that, conditional offers will come out on the 10th of December, and those offers are conditional on you getting over the academic requirement. So that is that 96 ATAR, and once your results have come out and you have over the 96 or the equivalent academic requirement, you can then accept the conditional offer. So that's kind of the process from here on out. And like I've stressed many times, the application's closing very soon, so please get onto that. And finally, I just want to take any questions. So I can see there's a couple there, but if you have any more, please pop those in now and I'll try and answer all of them. So Claire says, in the first application questions where we list our activities positions, should we try and list the activities in an order that will look nicer on our application, or is random okay? Look, I wouldn't stress too much about that. If you think, some are a little bit more important than others, you can put them near the top, but really it's not a very important thing that we're going to be judging on. So we will read all of them. So if it's in there, we'll see it and we'll judge based on that. So yeah, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. And then one more question from Claire. Would you advise against wearing our school uniform for the video snapshot? Look, if you're comfortable wearing your school uniform, that's fine. Like I said, it's not really about what you wear here. It's about you showing your personality. And you are going to be sort of only from, the shoulder, a little bit of the shoulders up. So we're not really going to see too much of what you're wearing anyway. So again, yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about what you're wearing. And if it makes you feel comfortable, then sure, that's fine. Use your best judgment. Looks like we don't have any more questions. Oh, one more has just come through from Anna. So if we have been given an estimated ATAR from our school, should we put that in the section for ATAR or equivalent result? No, you shouldn't. So ATAR or equivalent result is for the actual result, not for the estimate. So there's a separate section where you'll put in an estimated ATAR, and that will be done by your school. So your careers advisor will actually do that estimate and then put that in. So don't put that in the actual ATAR or equivalent results. Looks like we don't have any other questions. So if you do think of anything else in the meantime, or if you're watching this after the fact, you can email the Co-op office at any time with any questions you have. And I'd like to wish you all the best of luck with your applications. And thank you very much for joining us today.